Before we get into the interview, just a quick disclaimer that the first 50 seconds of this interview, the audio, there were some technical difficulties, but right after that, everything is back to normal. So stay tuned, stay with it, and listen to this fantastic interview with Anna Kendrick.
All right, everyone, we are here with a very special guest. We are joined by actress and director Anna Kendrick. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are so excited to have you here. First of all, congratulations, because the movie is #1 on Netflix, Women of the Hour, which is, I mean, that's got to be the goal, right? When you know that you're going to have a movie come out on Netflix, it's like, let's get it to that top spot, and it's there.
Yeah, I know. I was really nervous because I know there was some cool stuff on the platform right now. And so I was like, maybe just for one day. So like now that we've had the whole weekend, I'm so happy. I'm over the moon.
Yeah, well, we've seen the movie. I watched it this weekend. Amazing job all around.
Thank you.
Really, really enjoyed it. I have to be completely honest. I did not know that this was a true story. And so watching the whole thing, I was like, wow, amazing concept. Like I was like, I'm locked in.
And then at the end, I was like, holy shit, this is all real. And then I dove into it more and more, and it led me to researching like all of the cases, which I think is also very important coming from the film too. It's like you learn about something that you didn't know prior, and then so much research comes from that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. I mean, obviously, like there's always going to be part of me that's like, oh man, I wish everybody watched it the way that you watched it, just like go in totally cold. Because sometimes like I would tell a friend that I was working on the movie, and then the next time I saw them, they would be like, oh my God, I like looked up all this stuff and I was reading all these articles, and of course I'm like, no, just wait and watch the movie. But the truth is, like, there's so much to this case. I mean, really, like what's shown in the movie is a tiny fraction of what happened. And you know, we're kind of doing composite characters sometimes because you're trying to sort of like, you know, take the pieces that really, you know, felt emotional or powerful to you and put them in the, you know, it's complicated. But I think the thing that I also am happy about is that like you actually, I would rather you didn't, but you could like do a bunch of research, and I think you wouldn't know what happens in the movie, you know, because like there's just so much stuff about all these awful things that happened. So, you know, the movie is 90 minutes, so it's just, you know, picking and choosing a couple of those kind of details.
Right. And the way you do the timelines, the different timelines in the movie does also help. Like somebody could do all their research. They're reading it in chronological order.
Totally.
Of, okay, so this is what happens. Like as you're watching the movie, like we don't know what happens to your character, right? Like it's, and because it's jumping around, we're like, that could have ended way differently. So like that's always so interesting when you're jumping around timeline wise. When was the first time you were, you know, made familiar with even just this story?
Yeah, I feel like I'd heard about this story. Like, I think it's kind of 50-50. People don't know anything about the story, or they're like, oh yeah, there was a guy and he went on the dating game and he was a murderer. Like, and that's kind of what I knew. Like that was the camp I was in. It was like I'd heard of it, but I couldn't really remember much about it. And mostly that's kind of the beginning and end of what people know, is that like he went on the dating game, and that was really weird for him to do, as he like was on, you know, this crime spree that spanned more than a decade, because no one really gave a shit.
The true definition of a serial killer.
Yeah, exactly. So I knew a little bit about it, and then like the script was just so much more emotional than I thought it would be. It was like kind of beautiful in a way. It was awful. It's horrifying. It's all these things. But it wasn't like, I don't know, like titillating. You know what I mean? It was just like a gut punch. It was amazing. And look, you know, at the end of the day, like it is kind of undeniably like a fascinating true crime story. But yeah, I was just struck by like how emotionally powerful it was.
And how did you want to go into directing this movie while also starring in it? Because you're like, these are real stories, but when something happened so long ago, it's almost easy to watch, because now there's so many like true crime documentaries, movies, and it's easy to get so fascinated and lost with it. But then you remember how serious and
Totally.
how real this was, which while watching the movie, I felt like I was like, oh my gosh, like after it ended, I'm like, wow, like it really sat with me that this I can't believe this really happens.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, yeah, I think like everybody that showed up to make the movie, like truly from like everyone in the cast to every like member of the crew treated the material with a lot of reverence and dignity. And like we kind of, we were together for a long time. So, we had our own like little inside jokes and stuff. But then it was like, well, when it was time to actually make the film, everyone was really serious about it. But it's funny because you're right. Like, it happened a long time ago. But even like when I talk about it sometimes in press, like I can feel my body like getting hot. Like I get so angry because, I think a big piece of the story is that law enforcement negligence and incompetence just let this go on for over a decade. So yeah, I think that like the injustice of it makes me want to like throw something at the TV, but like, yeah, I think I was just really like grateful that everybody showed up and had so much respect for what we were trying to do.
Yeah. How was it for you stepping into the director role?
Scary. Really, really, really scary. Like completely terrifying, scary. I know, because I feel like I'm doing a bit whenever I say this, but like when I pitched myself to direct the movie, a lot of people were like, "Are you worried about like acting and directing?" And honestly, again, I'm not trying to be funny about this, but I felt like, well, at least the lead actress and the director are going to be on the same page. Like it's kind of like one less thing for me to worry about.
Right.
And also like, I don't know, I've been acting on camera for 20 years. So like I am terrified about directing. I mean, absolutely shaking about it. But like acting, this is my job.
Yeah, you're a pro.
Yeah. Like you guys talk into microphones and you're probably pretty comfortable about it. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. No, but I feel like it's like you're always in charge of yourself and the job that you do, but it's like, yes, now you're in charge of yourself and the making sure the other actors are all
totally. No, I really was like, man, if someone else was playing my character, like I'd have to like explain to them what I want, and like what if they had a whole different idea, and I have to be like, oh, I love that. But maybe I didn't have to like negotiate.
Yeah, because you also want to be a respectful director.
Completely.
You want to hear, what your actors have to say. But you're just collaborating with your own brain, which is a huge,
and
huge
yeah,
plus.
I already think I'm right all the time.
Yeah.
So
it's perfect.
we've got along great.
Right. It's a perfect combination. Well, everyone who's listening, it's The Woman of the Hour on Netflix. So please go watch that. We really, really enjoyed it. And the scene in which you're noticing what's happening and you give him the wrong number and you're walking away. Like I was holding my breath. I was like, get out of there. It's like that perfect combination of like, she's going to make it, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, there were definitely certain things that were like, well, we don't know what happened. Like we basically know that, Cheryl and Rodney, they, after the dating game ended, they had an interaction, and we know that the next day she called producers and said like, make up an excuse for me, but we don't really know what happened in that interaction. So imagining that was like, well, it's also like not that hard to imagine, because we've all had that moment of being in, whether it's a parking lot or a dark street or whatever, just going like, is this guy just a creep, or am I really in danger here?
Absolutely.
I thought it speaks volumes to the story too, of sending that message of like law enforcement really failed all these women, and then what ends up getting him is like a teenage girl.
Yeah.
Like these adults, and nobody could figure it out. And a teenage girl is the one that like was smart enough to get out of the situation.
Like this, we're getting into a little spoiler territory here, but like whatever, whatever. That like they still let him go. Like over and over, they just let him go. And like I did a lot of research, and not with the intention of like making everything exactly how it happened, but like just I want to know everything. And like basically a lot of the times he was just basically let go off of like vibes, just vibes.
Right.
Yeah, it was just like, I don't know, he's got like a good vibe. I mean, it makes you want to scream.
It's crazy.
They're like, he's charming.
Right, and that's what the problem with serial killers work.
Yep.
It's like, then you see all these people that become obsessed with serial killers and like, well, they're good looking. It's like, what? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It's insane. But seriously, incredible job. Like, really just an amazing job directing and acting. And, you know, we've seen you talk recently. You are such an amazing comedy actress. Like, your comedic timing is impeccable. But you've talked about how you kind of wanted to step out of the comedy realm and a little bit more into some serious roles.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that now?
Well, I guess like it's not so much that I was like, I want to be taken seriously.
Right.
It was actually like, it was coming from a kind of genuine place. Like I got out of an abusive relationship and suddenly like the material I was responding to was really different. So, you know, it's like sometimes when you're really in a bad place, you're like, if I hear a happy song, I'm going to claw my skin off, you know?
Right.
So it was like I kind of had to lean into what my inner world was, because you're just like, I just feel like a fraud if I were to be on like a comedy set right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also just got off of the set of Simple Favor 2, so we're, you know, we're getting back in the groove, but yeah, I'm very much aware that, particularly if it's like, well, it's my first directing job, you'd maybe be expecting a light musical romp, and that's not what I did. But I don't know, there's just something that feels like, unfortunately, not like unfamiliar territory for me, and I would suspect for most women.
Yeah.
But I think that is like what was so cool about you directing a movie like this, was kind of, people are familiar with your work and your acting, and there's probably people, because there's 9 million things on Netflix, right? When they're scrolling through Netflix, they're like, oh, this movie looks cool, play, and then they don't know, and then the first end slide comes up and is like directed Anna Kendrick, and they're like, whoa, that's so cool.
Right.
You know, like that's like, it's refreshing and new and maybe like not what everybody would expect, which is fun.
No, I love it. It just reminded me that the day that it came out, which was only a couple days ago, I like, you know, wake up and I go on my Netflix to be like, oh my God, like, is it going to be like right there? And I had to like search for it. So I was like pissed, right? But then I realized like, oh, I have never watched an Anna Kendrick movie on Netflix. So like my algorithm is like, well, we don't know exactly what's going on with her taste, but we know that she fucking does not watch anything that bitch Anna Kendrick is in. So like, I was like, that's so funny. Because of course, like anything like that I'm in that ends up on Netflix, like I like scroll away from it like it's a hot stove. I'm like, oh God, no, not my voice, not my face, anything but that.
That is too funny. You know, on a more serious note, you mentioned being in an abusive relationship, which unfortunately a lot of women can relate to. And I think that's why like someone like you, who people look up to, they see, you know, people see glitz and glamour, they see you in a bunch of movies, but they also then hear about you talking about your experience and being so open, and sitting here right now even being like, I don't feel true to myself to be on a comedy set. Like that is really comforting for a lot of women to hear, that like, you know what, it's okay to like be like, I'm not in this mood right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's so interesting. I mean, I remember when I kind of first talked about that, I couldn't believe like the number of women that kind of reached out to me, that I was going, but you're so famous and successful and you're like such a boss. Like, and I was totally doing that same thing of going like, but wait, but you're so like powerful and great. Like how, like, you know, it can really happen to anybody, which I think I hadn't fully internalized until it happens to you. I think that I'm still like, there are times where I have like a really bad month, like not like a bad day. Like there are times where I have like a really bad month, and I feel embarrassed that I'm not like better or over or whatever. And I kind of know better than to do that, but you can't help it. Right. It's like I wish there was kind of this like period of feeling, unstable or sad, and then I could like put a bow on it and be like, but now I'm better. And it's just, I wish it was linear, and it's just not. It sucks.
It's right, and it's so complex, and it's like you want to be able to be like, I'm okay. And who was that last month? Like, I don't know that person. Like, I'm totally different now. But you know, I'm sure people have told you in your personal life, and just us watching you, growing up watching you, we think you're amazing, and I think it's incredible for you to be so open about this, because it really does help a lot of women, especially our age range, to hear someone like you. And like you say, when you talk to people who are so powerful, successful, it's like it really can happen to anybody, and it fucking sucks, but we power through, and it's also okay to not power through sometimes, you know?
Yeah. And I think it also shows too when you can sometimes, you know, when you're going through stuff in your personal life, you can make professional choices that help you and are beneficial for you. Because I think sometimes, especially as women, we feel like we have to be like, yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Sign me up. Whatever it is, I'll do it. And sometimes when you're going through things personally, you're like, oh, God, this is the last thing that I want to do, and I hope it's okay if I say no. Like, and it is, and
right.
and it is okay, and it is really hard. Yeah, like, and it's okay that it's hard. I guess. Like, I think, even, you know, directing this movie, or like pitching myself to direct the movie, even, it wasn't done in a like, yeah, I'm gonna power through. It was a completely like fearful endeavor for me, and that. It's okay. Yeah. That I, you know, even when I pitched myself, I was like, unless you guys think that's a bad idea. Like, I just want to do whatever's right for the movie, but you guys let me know.
Right. You have like a 30 slide PowerPoint at the end. It's like, but also whatever you guys want.
But no worries if
totally
not.
Cool. No worries.
No worries if not.
No worries. I won't be mad at all. I'll laugh. It'll be really funny.
I actually did a whole pitch where I was doing that like push-pull thing, and they told me like, we think we're gonna hire you, but could you come in tomorrow and do that again like a confident person? Yeah. Like, they made me like do it again, but just be more like, I'm the only woman for the job. Which was like a total performance. And by the way, there were people that were like not totally on board because of the way I was doing the pitch. And then they were like, all right, we get it. And I was like, I'm faking it. Yeah. You literally know that I'm faking it. This is a placebo effect. And you're fine with the fact that it's a placebo. Whatever.
You're a wonderful actress. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Just wonderful actress. You just mentioned that you were just on the set of Simple Favor 2, which I think we're all so excited about. And I think people were waiting to hear the news about that, and happy to hear it's really happening, because I feel like for a little bit it was like, is this happening?
That's how I felt.
Is this not?
That's how I felt. I was like, is this okay, I'll just wait, I'll just see what happens. No, there was a period where I was like, I don't think that's gonna really happen. But yeah, we made it, and I know that like I feel like everybody says like, oh, the sequel's like crazier than the first one, but it's fucking crazy. Yeah.
I can't wait.
I feel like I can say that without being like, well, they're gonna find out I'm lying. It's madness. And yeah, the director, it's the same director as the first one, Paul Feig, and he directed Bridesmaids. Yeah, he's amazing. He's amazing, and it is so funny because he's such a known comedy guy, but he's got some darkness in there.
Got some demons.
There are times where I'm like,
baby, don't all the comedians do?
Yeah. Like, what is this scene? Yeah, it's
that is
great.
true. The comedians got some demons.
On location, right?
We were in Italy.
Yeah, I mean,
wow,
doesn't get better than that.
I know the world's tiniest violinist is playing.
Wow, that is incredible.
I know. I saw that I was like, oh my god, dream. That's like when they're like when they must be. Hey, by the way, we're gonna film in Italy. It's like, okay, fuck.
I can't believe we're doing this one.
Guys.
A second one, really?
A second one in Italy. Oh, that sounds awful. I was laughing because I just saw a clip of you joking about how sometimes, you know, certain sounds and things like that from your roles have been like made into TikTok sounds. Oh
God.
And the whole yearbook mom thing just like really like took off.
I know.
I made one to that. I did. Me and my fiance, I did.
Shut up. So that's what I'm saying. Like how do you think,
came
like, do you
across
see
that,
it
like, in the wild
and
was like, oh, it's like such a jump scare. Because it takes you, that first time you hear it, it takes you just a second to go, oh, wait, I know this. Yeah. And then go, oh, God, that's my voice. You know.
That is so funny. Yeah. You mentioned that when you're, you know, scrolling on streaming, you're like avoiding Anna Kendrick at all times. What's one movie you've done that you completely avoid? That you don't want to see it, you don't want to hear about it?
Oh, my God. Oh God, I don't know.
It's tough.
And it's tough because
Yeah.
you've avoided it so much it won't even come to your
Yeah,
brain.
I guess like I think I could think of like the one that doesn't bother me as trolls because it's not really me.
Right.
And like I think the music in it is really cute. Like I have not made an effort to seek it out and sit down and watch it again after like the premiere. But I think if it were like on in the background, I would be like, aw.
Yeah.
Because it's also like so many animators' hard work and all that stuff. And you're like, I barely did anything. I like got in a booth a couple of times, and I just had a blast. But I'm gonna have to think about that one. Yeah, maybe all the other ones. Yeah.
We did a full. I mean, now it's like almost a year ago that we did it.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
time
does fly by. We
flies.
talk a
but
lot.
we did a full Twilight rewatch for the show because we'd seen some of it and our producer had never seen them, so we were like, oh, this will be great. We'll all watch them. We'll talk about them. We did a full rewatch.
As
series.
I was walking in, someone just popped their head, like a full, like bearded dude popped his head out to be like, "Love you in Twilight." Yeah, like a little drive by, like, "Love you in." And I guess I am like, it's really like in the last year.
Yeah.
It's been like I'll just be on the street and people will be like, "Hey, are you that girl from Twilight?" Which
is
hasn't
wild.
happened to me in like 15 years because there were other things that were then the thing.
Yeah.
That you were
but it's
the full
like
star of, and
yeah, and it's like, I'm loving it. I just don't know where it came from. Like, why now?
I don't know. It's
it's
something
a
with
social media
yeah,
thing when like
yeah.
all of like the like Gen Z finds new things.
Okay,
Like they're
totally
like,
when
oh, we
Gen
have
Z
to
finds-
watch Twilight
They're finding
now.
the material for the first
Yeah.
time.
Okay, wait,
you know?
I'm gonna get this wrong. Maybe you guys will remember, but I was on lurking on TikTok one night, and there was some video of like the someone's like very pretty backyard, and it was kind of like foggy weather, and the caption was, I'm gonna get this wrong, but the caption was something like it feels like real like ooh-ah weather or something, and it's this reference to this one song that plays in Twilight, but like they're so, and that was its own TikTok sound, but it's such a huge TikTok sound that they don't even like bother putting the sound on. They were just referencing the sound
in the
in like a
caption.
noise.
Yes.
Yep.
And my dumbass is going like, I'm Googling like, what is weather or weather or whatever, and then like gets me full circle to
that's
Twilight,
how-
and I was like, what is happening?
That's how deep it goes.
Yes.
Like they hold on to a joke or they find something, that we all loved, and then they just discover it now, which makes me happy because I'm always like, oh my God, everyone's joining in.
Totally.
But then they make it into something that you didn't
I don't
even
know. It's
put
just like
together.
such a different generation because for us it was like we grew up. We were reading the books when they came out and then seeing the movies like in real time
At midnight.
premieres, doing the whole thing.
You guys were doing
100%.
that? Oh, yeah.
Get out.
So it was like serious for us, like it's like
this
and
isn't a joke.
And then I think it took as the years went by, it was like people were rewatching, and now this generation has got it, and they just love they love memeing things and making.
Right.
It's like all the like they're all in on an inside joke that we're on the outside of, but the inside joke's about us.
Right, and it's like, this isn't a meme to us. This was very serious. Like, enough with the memes.
Yeah.
Well, I will say there is something really satisfying to me about something that becomes a big kind of like cultural moment that then has a ton of backlash like in the months or years following it, because I remember like being on Reddit at the time and being like, man, if there's one thing about Reddit, it's that they fucking hate Twilight. And they hate
everything.
they hate it the way, like
Yeah.
in the way that you were like, do you like do other things or
Right.
do you only hate Twilight on
Yeah.
Reddit?
Yeah.
And there is something about it where you go, is this because it's for like young-ish teenage, preteen and teen girls? Like, is this why you hate it so fucking much?
Right.
And it's like kind of satisfying to be like, wow, like, I mean, what is it, 15 years?
Yeah.
4 years later, it's still like kicking around and
Right.
there's no more backlash and stuff. But that was like a whole wave of like people just making their entire personality
Right.
hating Twilight.
Yeah,
That's
that
why
is
it's
so
so
wild
and
to think about.
characters have changed, like the public perception of the characters have changed, where it's like now when I see people talk about your character, they're like, oh, she was snarky and like great, like we love it. Like it's like, you know, it's funny to see how it all comes around. But yes, for you to now, as people is being like, oh my God, Twilight, and you're like, Pitch Perfect? I don't know. Like you're like, this is what we're pulling up, Twilight. But
I sing, you know?
yeah. No, I mean, it's been great. You've been a part of some amazing franchises, and that's like when you're in a movie and they want like seconds, thirds, fourths. Like, what is that feeling like for you?
I mean, I think it's all in the cases where it's happened. It's been a total shock for various reasons. Like, well, I mean, to just take it into the present, and then we'll go all the way back to Twilight.
Yeah.
Like, I think Simple Favor, the first question was like, well, how do we make another movie if the end of the first movie, So how do we?
Do we have to reverse this?
But yeah, you know, it works and it's great, whatever. But with Twilight, like, I know it always feels like it's like, I don't know, false humility or something. I can promise you that we were there. The idea that Twilight would get a sequel was out of the question. Out of the question. Like, it just didn't feel like people cared, and it was like, okay, it's like teen vampire. And I know that now, like, that means like, yeah, that's a moneymaker, teen vampire stuff, but it wasn't at the time. So it just seemed like I don't even really know what this will be. Like, I think it was like Ashley Greene who, like, threw the rap party once we were all back in LA. She just like rented out a bar, like out of her own pocket, because the first movie was such a nothing burger that like they weren't even going to give us a rap party.
Right.
And that was really standard on film sets, particularly at the time. So like that's how little faith there was floating around. Not oh, the cast, like the producers and stuff. Like we're like, yeah, I don't know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
That is so interesting hearing from you, because on the outsider perspective,
the material was there.
As a viewer, we all thought it was the biggest phenomenon of all time when the first movie came out. So it's
when it came out, we were like, whoa.
Yeah.
So it's like to see how the difference there. And then, you know, you talked about Simple Favor 2. Pitch Perfect is also, you know, it's being
that's
talked
another one.
about.
Everyone's like, another one.
Yeah, everyone wants more from Pitch Perfect.
I know. I feel like that's actually, again, like in the last like 6 months, it's like people are like, hey, when's Pitch Perfect 4? When's Pitch Perfect 4? And at first I thought it was just like, oh, I don't know, that we've run out of things to talk about in the interview, but it's like really insistent.
No, it is.
And it's wild. My mother, this is not a joke, I could show you the text right now, texted me last night at 10 p.m. and was like, if you guys do a Pitch Perfect 4, I have an idea. And she didn't tell me it over text. Maybe it's top secret.
Yeah, so that can't be written down.
And then she followed up and she was like, I'd be willing to sell it to Paramount for the right price. And I was like, well, it is a film made by Universal. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know, maybe you're just a smart business lady and you're trying to get some
I'm trying to produce a bidding war here.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah. You'll set up a meeting and maybe it'll happen. Yeah. But is that in the talks, or is that just something people just want?
No, I think it's just something people want. I mean, I always feel like if something's going to be made to happen, Rebel's always going to be the person that's like the steam train that marches into Universal or Paramount. Who knows?
If your mom's running it.
Actually makes something happen. But we're all kind of like, we would love to. If for no other reason than like we're constantly trying to get the 10 of us in a room together again. And it's a very wonderful thing that everyone is very busy and very successful and working, you know. Yeah. And it feels like mostly we can manage to maybe get 6 people, but you know, it does feel like, well, damn, like if we were ever really going to be in a room together, it would probably only happen if there was another movie. So selfishly, I think that's the main reason why we're like, yeah, we'll do it.
Right. Exactly. You guys got to right time, right place.
We have to wrap up, but I got to ask, was there a period of time that people were just like making you do the cup song over and over? Like if you were at parties or if people saw you, they were like, can you do this? Can you do the cup song?
Mostly people wouldn't ask. They'd sort of talk about it, but they wouldn't ask me to do it. And certainly I never did.
Yeah,
If they did ask, that would be
Just to
You
be
just walk
clear.
on a party,
that would
somebody
be-
hands you
that
like
would be
6
batshit.
solo cups.
Yeah.
Are like, here you go.
Move over. I got this.
One woman at like the White House Correspondents' Dinner one year did come up to me and she wanted to do it for me, but she had like I think she was a little tipsy.
Yeah.
And she had like a real glass cup, and I was like, "Lady, no. Plastic surgery is going to be in both of our futures if you don't put that down right now." But mostly it's people coming up to me and saying that like their kid did it for a recital or something, and there is a little bit of an undertone of like, "Thanks a lot, thanks a lot for that," because it's like hearing someone practice chopsticks. Like once you get it down, it's cute, but that learning period is really annoying. So I'm very very sorry as always to all the parents whose kids won't stop doing it. I apologize.
Oh no, that's but like Rhea said, we have to wrap up. The last one. We know we talk a lot of reality TV, all that jazz. What are you watching right now that you're really into?
I haven't got fully caught up on Love Is Blind on
Okay.
this season of Love Is Blind.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was like,
Buckle up.
I was deep into Love Island with no.
Yeah.
And now I'm just watching the train wreck that is Love Is Blind.
Yep.
So you were deep into this past season of Love Island?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Can we get some favorites and non-favorites?
Well, I mean, of course, Queen Leah. I mean, and how did that feel for you guys?
Incredible.
It was like, because you guys like broke the news. We peaked. You like broke the news that everyone in America wanted to be the one to break the news.
It was the most, I can't even talk about it because it feels like outer body, and like I just keep.
But like, had a producer or anything like mentioned to her like how? Were you guys literally
they
the
were
people
really
that were
trying
like,
to keep them in the dark. They were
they
like
didn't have their
whispering.
phones when-
Like Janae was like, how many Instagram followers do I have? Shut
Yeah,
up.
and they were like,
They
all
were
right, get out of the room, get out of the room. Like, they were pulling them out.
They
But
were yanking
when
them as fast as possible.
When they first sat down with us, none of them got their phones back. So,
Yeah.
like,
They still hadn't had their phones.
In our interview with Leah, we were like, no, like, I said to her, I was like, Leah, you will always be famous. And she was like, what? Like, and then we.
So she really didn't.
No, she didn't know. And
Nobody
then-
had like hinted to her like, hey, the show's over, but like, don't worry about it. You're good.
I think they said like you're great, but until they got their phones back, and then we were
They didn't
in
really
the
believe-
airport with them when they got their phones back, and Leah looked down at her phone and looked at us, and she was like, "They're calling me the people's princess," and we were like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually crazy to witness, and we were like, "We don't belong here."
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
But that also must be like a very unsettling feeling to all like. To just be like, oh, there's so many people watching. Oh,
No,
God.
it was
I
honestly,
felt for
it,
them,
it
like-
felt like we were watching like a private like moment, like
Yeah.
just like even just being in the airport, like seeing them like looking at their phones and like reading, and like some of them had like tears in their eyes,
Right,
like
and there was also
like we were
drama
like
that was happening
Yeah, we were
between
like,
a
oh my
couple of
god, this
them.
is like this is crazy that this is all hitting them hard right now as they're about to get on a 10-hour flight back home.
and you guys are just like, congratulations.
Right, and they're like asking us to join in like with shots with them, and we're like, yes, but like also I feel dirty doing this, like, you know, like
Right.
I'm like, I shouldn't be a part of this, but you're offering, so
Right,
okay.
right. Is there
Welcome
part of
back.
you that's like, oh God, I feel like clout chasey, but they don't know how famous they are, so they're not
Exactly.
seeing it that way.
Yep, exactly. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be in the background of this Instagram story. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
An
they have
Instagram
no
story
clue.
that you know will be like picked apart with every minutia.
Yeah, it was
So
crazy.
it was a wild season, but thank you so much
Yes,
for
thank
coming
you
in the studio
so
with us.
much.
So much fun talking to you. And once again, everybody can stream Woman of the Hour on Netflix. It's fantastic. Thank you so much, Anna.
Yes, thank you so much.